We are back with Grazel one more time, and today we're diving into ADHD and relationships again. And we're going to be asking, why do people with ADHD struggle with relationships? So, what sort of issues might come up, Grazel?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just trying to see the most important ones that couples fight about a lot is time management and lack of follow through. So time management is a big part of executive functioning, difficulty when the ADHD trait is not managed in a healthy way, right? So when there's time perception differences in different neurotypes, assumptions can arise. And if those assumptions are believed to be true, then it can cause a big disruption in their relationship. So, for example, someone who's a neurotypical may be able to finish a task in 20 minutes that requires to be finished in 20 minutes, finish it in 10 minutes.
Hmm.
Someone who is of a different neurotype may have a time management difference and perspective. And they may think, oh, yeah, I can finish that in 30 minutes, but it can take them an actual hour because of the inattentive brain. And, how busy their brain gets means that they're going to jump from one distraction to another, which means the focus on the task is going to be derailed a little bit. So if the person who is neurodivergent tells their partner, oh yeah, I can finish that task in 30 minutes, and the neurotypical partner is waiting for that task to be finished at 30 minutes and it's not done and it hasn't been even started on, then the neurotypical partner can feel like they're being lied to. Now they're taking more personal, of course.
Hmm.
They're being lied to, and then it um gets piled up with another trait of ADHD, which is then the lack of follow through. You're saying something, but you're not following through on what you said.
Hmm.
So that can double down on the personalization of the other partner.
Yeah,
Those two things are very, very big. And most couples fight about that.
yeah. I was going to say that doesn't seem unique to an ADHD um, dynamic in a relationship. That just sounds like regular couple stuff in many ways.
There are some couples that struggle with that, and maybe they don't know they have ADHD, but it's very crucial to know if that time management perspective and differences is related to neurodivergence, or it could be related to trauma as well, or it could be cultural,
Mm.
right? But for this actual topic, that if someone has been diagnosed with ADHD, time perception can be a cause of disconnection.
Hmm. Yeah, and you can understand why. So, well, what's your view on treatment of ADHD? Because obviously you can medicate, which sometimes is a good thing, sometimes is a bad maybe. What do you think about that?
I think it's always good to start with behavioral modifications. If there's any way for someone with ADHD to find support, if they can afford support, I think that's my first, recommendation is find an ADHD therapist that can help you with these difficulties. And then if you're able to apply all of the new emotional and behavioral skills in a way that requires very less effort, then okay, I don't necessarily think you have to be on medication. But if you feel that it's really hard to implement what you're learning in therapy,
Hmm.
it's taking you a while, then it's good to consider, okay, let's look at psychotropic medications and see if I can start with a low dose of a stimulant or a non-stimulant that can help you manage daily tasks. That would be really helpful too. My my complete recommendation, though, is a combination of both medication and therapy.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the safest route with any treating any kind of mental illness. I think. Speaking from my own experience of depression and anxiety. Medication does not cut it in and of
Yeah.
itself, certainly.
Yeah.
Uh,
I can't heighten that enough. In my book, I've talked about medication and I've mentioned that just remember that you can use medication to help stabilize, but it doesn't really teach you skills.
yeah, it's not a cure; it's a management at best.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, okay, so why would a partner with ADHD who maybe understands they've got ADHD and understands how it shows, why might they still feel that kind of feeling chronically misunderstood, feeling like they're not enough because they understand themselves. So what needs to happen with them to kind of feel okay and like they are enough?
Mm. I think the first question is it's really hard for I think it's really true that neurodivergents feel misunderstood a lot. And that's part of their experience. I think societally, there's a lot of messages that are being shared to everyone that you have to think a certain way in order to make it work in this life and be successful. So if you diverge from that societal expectation or societal norm, then that means you're less than. So with that messaging, you can imagine why a neurodivergent will feel misunderstood. Now, cut to being in a relationship where you have a partner that understands that you have ADHD, but you still feel misunderstood. It's probably because you're in a cycle where one, maybe you're not open enough, or maybe you don't have the right or appropriate language to express what's going on for you. So your partner without ADHD doesn't fully understand where you're coming from. And part of ADHD also is emotional paralysis, that when you're overwhelmed, sometimes it's really hard to conjure up words and sentences to explain your process. So that will land to your partner as if they're not understanding you. So if you're not able to really create the space of pausing, breathing, taking your time to respond, it's going to be hard to understand your process without you explaining it in a way that will be understood. Now, I say that not as a blame, but as an explanation on how executive functioning difficulties can manifest in communication issues where you would feel misunderstood. Now, going to the partner that's non-ADHD, even though they know that you have ADHD and probably understand that your behaviors are not intentional, but it's still causing relational distress, sometimes you're not going to feel understood by your partner if that partner has personalized your ADHD traits, meaning they're in deep in their personalization that it's hard for them to get out of it and they don't see your ADHD traits anymore,
Mhm.
right? So both partners in the relationship has their own reaction to feeling misunderstood,
Mhm.
or contribution, not reaction.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Now, when it comes to an ADHD and maybe they've had past relationships and relationship trauma is a real thing, things that haven't worked out before, and then you carry that into your next relationship. Do those kind of issues feel bigger for someone with ADHD?
I think they're aware that you know if they've been in maybe a couple of relationships or through a few or several relationships and the same patterns arise, I think this is when ADHDers usually seek out for help, right? Like, hey, I'm noticing a pattern in me that's caused distress in my relationships. I need help. Is it heavy for them? Absolutely. If there's anyone that's affected by their ADHD, It's the individual first before their partners. So the criticism that may come from other people who doesn't have ADHD, the person with ADHD is the biggest critic of
Mm.
themselves. They criticize themselves a lot because they feel inferior to others, and that's not their fault. It's it's bigger than them. It's societal. It's
Yeah. And then do they kind of exhibit those masking behaviors because it feels so uncomfortable to be so self-critical, so they come across as the exact opposite and the pendulum swings the other way, and then people on the outside see them as being completely uncaring.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Masking is so detrimental to anyone's, healthy psyche. It's it masks who you are. So you're always having to play this false sense of self to others just to feel accepted. And again, that's like a false sense of self. It's false. It's not your true identity. So the more you mask, the more you play this false sense of self. And when do you actually come out? And when you actually show your true self, the partner that you're with may be confused about what you're showing now and may say, wait, you're not the person I thought you were. And now the blame goes their way again,
Yeah.
right? So you can see how conflicting this would be for someone who's neurodivergent.
Yeah, absolutely. And how in a world where you're expected to behave a certain way, and as an ADHDer, that is there an element of like you have to mask in order to get by, or do you think society's moving to a point where that's just kind of accepted that you are that way and we can accommodate that?
It's both. I think a lot of neurodivergents are still masking because it doesn't feel safe to be neurodivergent out there still. But we're moving into a direction where we're teaching others to be more affirmative of different neurotypes so they don't have to mask. So we can, people that are non-neurodivergent can start to provide accommodations
Mm.
and can look at their own discomfort about why another person has a different neurotype, and you can still work with them. There's nothing wrong with them. You're not, one type of brain is not superior over another.
Yeah,
We're all very different.
yeah, yeah. And we all have different strengths and different weaknesses, and ultimately, you just need to find that spot where you are really good at what you do, and then you
Yes.
can be at home there, and it doesn't matter how kind of neurodivergent you are. You know,
Yes.
if you look at some of the great composers of history in like classical music, some of them are just completely bonkers. Great inventors, complete like autistic savants we probably call them nowadays.
Yeah, there's so many neurodivergents that are so successful. I mean, you see them everywhere, and they're probably not out saying they're neurodivergent. I think they should identify as neurodivergent because there's so many successful people that are out in public, big public figures that are neurodivergents, and they're very successful. Only if they were able to really identify as one, I think they'll help a lot of people that are masking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully it comes out more and more in the cultural zeitgeist, and we'll be able to make sense of it as we go through. Yeah, thanks again for your time, Grazel. Have a great day.
You're welcome. Thanks, Scott.